Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Conant Show. And I gotta get situated here. Uh, so, I did such a nice show last week about the seven worlds, and I didn't record it. I was going to retell the story again tonight, but I actually had a real interesting and serendipitous day 2 days ago, and I was out photographing in the backyard, and because of all the rain that we've been getting, I've been really fortunate to catch some really lovely images. And it just occurred to me that I have to make this image possible to show. So just bear with me a moment, and I'll try to keep talking. So I'm by myself engineering again, folks. And one of the things I have to do is, let's see. All right. And computer input, let's see here. And what happened? Nothing. I'm still trying to get the signal here. Menu. And let's go back to video. Okay, so we got a little bit going here. We're getting there, folks. We're getting there. And let me see what happens here. All right. And I'm not sure what to say here. There we go. Okay, so we are looking at a nice little bit of fungus there. And I have to do a little white balance here. There we go. Oh, that's real sensitive. So this is a fungus in the backyard on a tree that about a week and a half ago, it looked like it was an egg. And boy, I wish you could really see the colors in it. There's some really tremendous colors. And it really doesn't do justice on screen here as it does in the photograph. The reds are really brilliant, very brilliant reds. And it's growing in this nook of a tree. And let's see what else we got here. And that is a flower that I've not really seen before. And I'm not quite sure what to call it. It's almost like an orchid of sorts. It has this very beautiful, delicate, I guess those are the stamens, white stamens coming down. But anyway, what I like about this is the composition of the colors in all of these pictures. There's just such nice contrasts between the green and the wet rocks and the blue of the flower and all of the shapes. Really show a real beautiful architecture of nature going on here and interplay of light and shadow. And this little guy was so soft and velvety looking, and I really wish I could get the color values a little more sharper, so you can see the orangeness to it. It's hard to calculate what each monitor looks like in the studio here, folks. We're really needing some better equipment, but in any event, this is probably a kind of mushroom called a bolete that it does not have gills, and we'll talk more about that in a little while. But I'm doing this tonight here on Woodstock TV, Conant Show, to really just share some of the real gorgeous and beautiful growth this summer from the abundant rain that we've been getting. Here is a little valley of sorts. It's actually the remnants. You can kind of see a little bit of the rubble from when this was a slate mine, or a bluestone mine, quarry is a better word. And this quarry is long defunct, and I love the way this moss really kind of looks almost like trees on mountains or on a mountainside. And the scale of these kinds of things always so fascinating to me, how the micro scale and the macro scale from a certain perspective looks an awful lot alike. And that is kind of a function of this thing called fractal mathematics. And that is that from the tiny patterns in a structure that get built upon and repeated into larger structures, the larger structures in the end of that construction look very similar to the, or if not the same, to the patterns that are at the very, almost say, molecular level. You know, very tiny to the very large. The things that build upon themselves tend to look like themselves. So the cellular structure of moss and the cellular structure of trees are very similar. So, but the scale is very different, and yet it has a very similar appearance. Now, this tree just looks like, I don't know, somebody's home. Maybe even a little bit of an apartment building with the holes going up the trunk of this, the base of this ancient tree here that's sort of rotting back into the forest. Again, the light that is captured by the moss on this, you know, pretty much semi overcast day. You know, the sun peeked through a little bit here and there, but it was you know, mostly cloudy. So you get a kind of a muted light, and it really makes the green quite beautiful and vibrant. Let's see what's going on here. And here's some more of our fungus friends. And I just really get a kick at how these different species of plants all have space for each other. You know, there's a real almost symmetry to the way these particular mushrooms are growing. And I don't know what they are. I wish I was a mushroom expert, but I'm not. And but I do think they're quite lovely to look at. And let's see what else we got here. This one's a little out of focus. But I love the way it blushes and how it kind of looks like a kidney bean. And with with that really kind of neat edging about it. It's really not my best focus in the world either. So, but I kept it anyway because I like it. So there you go. And this one is really remarkable in that the yellow is just so intense. See if I can adjust this a little bit. I hope that little adjustment I just made looks good on your home screens. It's hard for me to tell. We have such iffy equipment in the studio these days. It'd be really great if the town would support us with some new equipment. But again, we have another variety of mushroom, and the intensity of the color, the yellow, is just unbelievable, just beautiful. I wish it was in better focus, but what are you going to do? I have to complain about digital cameras. They don't really capture what you want to capture the way you want it. And sometimes they do a great job, but sometimes it just can't figure out what it is that you're wanting it to focus on. Whereas with my old, manual Konica film camera, I could manually focus to the exact thing that I wanted. And that's one of my disappointments in digital land. But then you get something like this. And this is kind of a puffball, I believe. And it almost looks like a sea creature, like a type of sea urchin or something. All kind of little spiny and scaly looking, but just love the juxtaposition of shape and color that occurs. As an artist and oil painter, I'm always, thinking of how to be original with form and color and depth of field and all of this. But then you just go out and you look for something in nature in your backyard, and you'll see something really quite amazing that just, happens randomly, or maybe it's not random. I don't know. And there we go. Those are those yellow guys, and boy, do I love this picture because of the different families of lichen and moss and grass and fungi, and there's even some kind of ovate leaves there from some kind of plant. And if you look on the stones, you can see some of the different lichens in various stages of their life cycle, of their growth pattern. I get a real kick out of that. And moving right along, just touring the backyard, and we could be in Ireland. I mean, this is just the colors out there, folks. If you can get out and walk around and see some of this stunning displays of nature, this kind of hard to imagine that I get excited about moss, but I just get the biggest thrill at the vibrance of these greens. When you're trying to do an oil painting or acrylic painting, and you're trying to capture these kinds of textures and colors, let me tell you, it's not easy. It's a tough one. Really difficult to do. Really difficult to do. So, God, nature, universe, great mystery, whatever you are, man, you make some great visual pleasures here. And we'll just go right on and look at this guy. This is a nice close-up of how this moss, if it was a different color, you would think it was an animal. Maybe it is an animal. I know mosses and algae is algae and lichen. Yes, I think it's a like a symbiotic creature of lichen and moss uh, to make this, or lichen and algae. That's it. That makes moss. Very interesting. They eat rocks. So if you want a monster that eat rocks, here it is. A rock-eating monster. But it's just, what a beautiful image. I just love it. I just get the biggest kick out of that one too. And let's see here. And nice little family of mushrooms. And the one that really captures my fancy here is that corrugated looking one. That's a little more, further along. And it looks like I don't know, like folds of an ear. Yeah, and that's what I really love about how these patterns, in nature get replicated. And there's a little close up for you. It's out of focus, sadly, but it's still, you get a real idea of just a real interesting design made by these, waves and folds, almost like a drape or a curtain. And I just had to take a picture of it, and wish it was the digital camera would be a little more cooperative at times. See, I took two, and it still just doesn't quite do it. It's just not quite there. But it's still a lovely mushroom. Be great if we had some mushroom experts, come on with me someday, fungi, mycologist, and share some identification skills with us. I wouldn't need it. That's kind of unfortunate that one's out of focus, but I get a kick out of this one because it's sort of poking. It's hiding. It's in the detritus of the forest, and the differences in color between the green and the gray and the slate gray and the orange, shiny, wet fungus growing in there in that nook. Every opportunity that nature has to do something, it'll do it. Let's see what else we got today. There's a tighter. That's a nice tight, better representation of this fungus creature thing. And I love that the leaf on the right there looks to me almost like a bat wing. It's just such neat stuff. Right out there in your background, right out there in your backyard rather. And this little newt is called an eft. And I'm going to see if I can bring the value up a little bit. Just a touch. Now this guy, they are very gentle, just the most adorable little things. And the image that I'm getting on screen here is looks very muted to what I have on the photo itself. So this is a bright orange creature. I mean, really bright orange. And they have these nice little spots that go down their little back. So he's a chubby little fellow. But they're really very gentle and quite friendly, and they are very abundant this year in the backyard. Now this mushroom, don't know what to say quite about it, other than it's yet another interesting color. And it captured my eye just before stepping on it. And I got real down close to it and got down on the ground, and for randomly no good reasons, the camera decided to focus, properly this time on what I wanted to capture. So that's this great foreground juxtaposition of twigs and looks like green little needles from the hemlock trees up above. But there's yet another expression of the fungi family. I'm real big on these guys. And there's our newt, or eft rather. And gosh, I sure do hope y'all at home can really appreciate the brilliant, vibrant color. The monitor I have here is showing it to be very kind of pale, but it's not. This is bright orange, or reddish orange, and cute as a button. Just cute as a button. There he is. There he is again. He's looking at us in a different perspective. And they're very subtle creatures, and even as bright as they are, it's very easy to step on these guys. And it's just so cute to see his little eyes looking at you. There he is, checking out the cameraman. This is right here in our own surrounds here in Woodstock, just right in the backyard. Now this fellow is a very different color. He's a little more green and tan, so he's this similar. I would say he's the same species, but really remarkably different color. And I've never seen one quite like that before. And I'm thinking, well, maybe this one's a female and the other are males. I'm not sure, or it's just a variation. But in any case, there he is, just doing his effed thing. There he is. That's a nice, close and personal. It's never a dull experience for me, when I go walk in the woods looking for things. And there's just so much out there to appreciate. I'll take a break from that. Well, I'll talk to you for a little while. I contemplate a lot, about how busy I have to be every day, I decided to do this little photo exercise, tonight. I've done a couple of them in the past, and I don't like to, belabor a subject, but this particular subject matter, which is the living creatures that live around us, really teach us an awful lot. And the thing about the eft, these little newt-like creatures, little salamander-like creatures, besides being incredibly delicate and incredibly friendly, really, I mean, they'll let you just pick them right up. They don't run away. They're like the sloth of the salamander family. They sort of amble away. If they feel threatened, they can move a little faster than not too fast. So their niche, whatever it is that they do to live, a lot of their time is spent standing still. So even as bright as they are, since they stand so still, you really don't even see them unless you're looking for them. And I wonder, what does that teach us? How does that relate to us humans who are always on the go? We're always on the move. We're always going, and we don't really appreciate the not moving, the slowing down, looking around at our world, and appreciating the really incredible beauty that we have around us all the time. So for all of you out there that, are in your busy lives, and for you out there, just sort of trapped at home for whether it's being sick or no transportation and you happen to catch my show, this is what I like to bring. I like to bring a little bit of the experience of the outdoors indoors. And maybe you guys will out there who don't get out to see this kind of stuff will take an interest and start putting on the hiking shoes and bug spray and go out and look at your world. Go out and see what you can see. All right, let's go back to our little show here, our show and tell. That's our buddy. And next. I just love that. Kind of fungus. It looks like a turkey tail, maybe. Might be the name of that. I'm not sure. Just so much variety. So much wondrous variety. Looks like there's something else over to the left of it. Not sure what that is either. Moving right along. Another picture of it. Camera's behaving, nice and focus. And I just noticed something pretty cool. Look in the upper portion of the image there at the top of the TV screen, sort of from the center to the top on the left a little bit, is 5 leaves. Now, I don't know what kind of plant that is. It's really hard for me to discern. But it almost looks like a bird flying. It has this sort of stylized, the head on the top, the tail on the bottom, the wings off to the sides, and the body in the middle. But in any case, there's another form that, I would use in a piece of artwork, perhaps in a drawing. Illustration or decorative design. Really neat stuff. And that colors are really quite vibrant in that fungus in the center of the photo. Now here's somebody's been eating on this one. It's the same kind of turkey tail like fungus, and just the way it positioned itself in between the rock and another rock. There's like this space that it was jutting out from, and it's how they do that. How do these fungus find these places for them to attach to, and they're so good at it. I mean, it's just, to me, it's just a real wonder. There we go. Hello, Mr. Eft. There he is. That's a nice picture. That's a real nice picture up there on screen. You really can see the definition of his body and his spine, and his little hands and feet. How similar they are to us. He's got little hands and and his little feet there, and just doing his life cycle thing. I love how soft he is. In fact, almost besides the twigs and the rocks kind of stuff, the moss looks like ferns. They really looks like a fern, but that's moss. It's tiny. That's tiny stuff. Yeah, he's about the length of my pinky finger. Oh, 3 inches maybe at the most. What a lovely little creature. Nice guy. There he is. Now, lichen. I like this lichen. The colors here are such, I just can't fathom how these colors and these color combinations manage to be so pleasing to me, at least to my eye. And there it is, just nature doing its thing. And you got the texture of this, wood to the upper left there, and the it's a very organized kind of a texture, very smooth. And then you have the almost looks like some kind of noodles or something, This lichen is like pappardelle, is it called pappardelle maybe or something? But it's got this leaf-like, wafer-like texture that is, to me, very it's because I'm hungry. I'm going to say delicious. I haven't had dinner yet, folks. I just had to run from Saugerties to Woodstock. I had attended a little appearance in the courtroom as that part of my life is unfolding in some interesting ways. That's another discussion for another day. This gem is yet another kind of a mushroom, another fungus, and the color is just unbelievable. The reds, I guess I'm going to say magenta, but that might not be the correct color that I'm looking to describe here. And again, folks, I can't really determine what you're seeing at your end. On my end, on the computer screen that I'm projecting from here, it's a very, very bright, vibrant red with these deep accents. And on my monitor of the outgoing signal, we get to sort of see what you guys see. But it's so very different from monitor to monitor. I sure do hope you're getting to see some of the real variety of color here. Never surprises me. Never fails to surprise me at how these various fungi have such incredible displays of color. It's just so much variety. Oh, these guys are cute, but they're out of focus. All right, so I think this might be a younger version of the same type of mushroom we just looked at. But I'll move right along. Oh, there's another eft. And again, he's not as bright red as the other ones, and he's not as green as some of them. So he's sort of in between. And you can really see the nice little spots. They've got these orange spots with black circles around them. And there he is, just being real still. And that's pretty much what you see when you go out there and see them. You'll see about 20 or 30 of them scattered about the forest floor, and none of them will be moving. They just sit there and they watch you. Now this specimen is much bluer in the photograph than the purple that it was out in the world. and I hope you see it as purple on your screens. It's not blue. It was really, I mean, it was just a royal kind of purple, and since it was had just been raining, and it's a very new fruiting body of a mushroom, it was very shiny, and so it has this flesh, wet, oily flesh-like shininess going on, and it's another just fabulous example of the variety that you will see. And I would say a patch of woods and backyard that was, say, 50 yards by 100 yards. That's it. That's as big as I walked around. There was not much. I didn't go very deep into the woods. I didn't go exploring very far. Didn't have to. Just poking around the backyard. And here's another vantage point. You can sort of see the white stalk at the bottom there, and there's that. I could have staged this and pulled that twig away so we could see, the continuity of this mushroom stem and cap, but I didn't want to. I wanted to keep it real. I didn't want to stage it, phony it up. Don't want to be phony here, although I did phony up a couple of them, brushing leaves off and such. And then, yet another variety of mushroom, and this one's more on the whitish ivory kind of part of the spectrum. And I got a kick out of this one because of its rim is so ragged. It's got this real ragged edge to it. Let's see if we got a better one of that. Well, not so much better. This one's a little different. Might be in the same family of mushroom, but as you can see, it was very, very white. Very white. And it made the color values, that the camera automatically adjusts for. I guess that's contrast and brightness. It confused it. It confused the camera, so it doesn't really show the detail I'd love you to see, but it does certainly show how brilliant this white was. You just get everything out there. You get everything, and and then you get something like this, which is, we're looking straight down. You don't get to see the stem here, but this little mushroom kind of looks like a flying saucer with a little tiny bite taken out of it. But in any event, it's in the more of the tawny and tan range of colors, very pastel. So you get everything from bright whites to pastels to deep burgundy reds. Just everything is out there, and blue and purple. Here's a close-up, and that's actually a very good image, because I was pretty much almost right on top of it. Those are the pine needles that you're looking at there, at the piney forest. Wow, this guy, how triumphant is that? Lifting his gills right up. I mean, he's just really towards the peak, or past the peak, or just past the peak of his fruiting body. You can see the gills, and if you look real close onto the upper right part of this image, in the mushroom itself, in the cap itself, right in the gills, there seems to be a face. Yeah, if you can see that there in the upper right quadrant of that mushroom, really kind of cool. Always a surprise. Now here you get a sense of the lay of the land a little bit, and what interests me about this picture is the moss and the lichen, the rock, and the tree growing on top of the ledge like that, and sort of, hanging on like a big mitt. It almost looks like a hand or a foot of some kind from that moss-covered tree. And there you see all the lichens and the moss and greens. And some nice brilliant green in the backgrounds. We got to be thankful for the rain, and we've had some dry seasons over the decades, and this is the kind of a summer that really makes the water table healthy. We're getting a good shot of water, and this is what happens. Check this guy out. I love this photo. It's one of those purple. It's not blue. I know it may look blue on your screen, but the camera just really couldn't capture just how purple that really was. It was the deepest purple, but not dark. I don't know if that makes sense to you. And the way this fruiting body of the fungus had divided itself, it almost looks like a kind of a strange butterfly. But there it is. Yet another fabulous color and shape. Ha. So this is a pretty substantial sized mushroom here. And I get a kick out of the gills. How they just resemble so much the gills of fish. When I was actively fishing a lot, you have to take hooks out of their mouths, and if you're going to eat them, which is what my whole point of fishing is to eat, because I only fish when I'm hungry. Don't fish for sport. I don't think is something to call a sport. I think fishing is something that we do for survival and with great reverence, as fun as it may be. So there it is. Nature, sort of repeating a pattern. And like the gills of a fish interacting with the water, these are gills of a fungus interacting with the air. Maybe not in the same way, not in the terms of a gas exchange, but that's something I would like to look into. I wonder. I know that the gills play an important role in distributing the spores, which drift on the wind and then eventually become more fungus. And this is the same fellow, but looking from above. I almost didn't take this picture. It's kind of ugly. But then I thought, there's something to be said about something that's so ugly. It's so ugly, it's kind of beautiful in this kind of a strange organic way. And I'll give a little pause here and go back to my face. Yeah. So the ugly thing, interesting concept. That's what stopped me about that particular fungus. We humans are really kind of a funny creature. We have such opinions about everything, and I sometimes wonder if everybody looked like, Ken and Barbie, how boring would that be, And I think that, our sense of aesthetics, our sense of beauty is really something that, I guess I got kind of two thoughts in my head about this, there's the inner beauty of somebody, and then there's, you know, the outer shell. And sometimes you can't tell a book by its cover, you know. And I often feel that, you know, so many of us suffer self-esteem issues because we think we're ugly in some fashion. And that's a kind of a painful thought for me, you know. Um, I was always teased when I was little for being a tubby and being, you know, slow and clumsy. I was a big kid, couldn't help it, you know. And learning to be uh, graceful when you're a big clumsy kid is a hard job. You know, it really is a challenging thing. And you know, I sprained my ankles routinely and my knees. I was always twisting my knees and my ankles because I grew much, much faster than I could deal with those changes. And I ended up really feeling ugly about myself because I didn't match up to the aesthetic standards of our mass-produced culture. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that, you know, everything in its form and beauty and function has a beauty to it. And I think that I think we need to, maybe that would be a really good show to have someday. Maybe some of you out there watching tonight, you know, if this touches you and you want to talk about this particular subject about self-image and image that we project and our, you know, expectations of what beautiful is and what, you know, ugly is and you know, how that impacts our young people, our children, our grandkids, whatever. It's really a very important topic because I don't think we're really giving a good foundation for our young people to be comfortable in their own skins, you know, to be comfortable with themselves. And that might have, and it might not have any impact on the opiate and alcohol epidemic in our country. That's a hard call, but you know, that's kind of why I was showing this particular image, is because I saw that and it was almost scary looking. It almost looks like some kind of sea monster again, you know, but there's also something very, you know, there's something graceful about it. I don't, you know, it almost looks like it was just barbecued. It almost looks like you could eat it, but no, in a way. But, you know, if you're following my thought that there's room for everybody, you know, there's room for everything. And we should really encourage everybody to appreciate each other, you know, in a good way. So here's another dirty mushroom. And I don't know if it has a stem or not. I can't remember. But it really grabbed my attention because it was so irregular, not as irregular as the previous one, but it was so irregular and so, you know, shockingly bright. I mean, I walked up to it from about 50 feet away and just, wow, you know, look at this, you know, dirty little mushroom, but in spite of the dirt that it's growing out of and the dirt on top of it, or the detritus on top of it, it's still this incredibly pure white, pure color. Yeah, just pretty neat. Now, I'm looking on screen here, and once again, I'm seeing less color than was really in the image. On the computer image here that I'm monitoring, it's pretty close to the way it was out in the woods, but up on the wall monitor, it really looks quite muted. This was so, I'm going to say vermilion maybe. Um, Scarlet tanager kind of a color for the birders out there that know what that is. But this plant, I don't know what it is. It almost looks like the way it's growing like a phlox in the phlox family, but it has a trumpet flower. So it doesn't have a phlox or a kind of a flower, and it doesn't have an aster kind of a flower. Similar leaves to both phlox and aster, but this is a very unique, and it was growing right out of the water in the swampy area. And never seen anything like it. Really quite beautiful. First time I've ever seen this flower. And here we have kind of a mushroom that with those flecks on it. It looks alien to me. Looks like an alien egg or something. I don't know. But I love the textures and just the spacing in which it grows, the things that are around it, the layout of the earth around it. In all of this randomness, it sure does seem organized, doesn't it? Here we're getting into a fairy world, and this is kind of what this is like. This little patch of woods is a perfect, movie set for filming elves and fairies and gnomes and other woodland magical creatures. But this little grouping of fungus is fruiting out on the side of a tree. And what grabbed my attention was just the wonderful contrast of colors. That green, the lichen with the slight bluishness to it, and then the white of these mushrooms just really set each other off. Nice color harmony. That's another thought. You could think of it as color harmony. Now this is the other side. And they're just the most delicate little things. Let's see if I can adjust the image a little bit. And maybe not. Anyway, these guys were just so precarious is the word. Very precarious. And I'm trying to bring the contrast up so you can really see the stems and stuff, but it's not working. So I'm going to bring it back down a little. Yeah. Hard to really tune this image for you folks. Doing the best I can here. All right. Moving right along. Another angle, very similar angle, but just to sort of get a flavor of the positioning of things on this tree here. Check this out. Almost looks like some kind of a, snake-like creature. But there you have this, I don't know if it's turkey tails, baby turkey tail maybe, but they're very, very small. It's on a twig, and the twig had some kind of a gnarl growing on it. And the orange just jumped right out and grabbed me, so I had to take a picture of it. And there's a nice close-up. Check that out. I just love the striations and the folds. You know, it's so much, you know, artistic ammunition in these photographs out there, right out there in the backyard. All right, now this one's, I love this one. That little berry that you see is a wintergreen berry. And the ovate leaves, the oval leaves there, are the wintergreen. And it's growing subtly and secretively in amongst the rocks and the moss. Now those little berries are really quite tasty. They're very subtle, earthy, wintergreen flavor, and those leaves are really quite aromatic. Now, I'm not suggesting anybody go out and look for this kind of thing and eat them. You know, you do have to know how to identify them, and the way I identify them, besides knowing what they are, is that the leaves are very waxy. They're kind of a very tough leaf. And if you crush it up, you'll smell the wintergreen, and it smells like black birch. And you know, it's very easy to you know, identify it once you crush up a leaf and you smell it and you go, oh, okay. And then you got wintergreen. You can chew on it or just smell it. Very, very healing, kind of a pleasant smell. Very aromatic. And there's a berry, and that amazing color. Again, I just get the biggest kick out of these colors. And that's what really inspired me to take all these pictures the other day. Is, you know, I mean, I was out actually looking for fungus, but I just was so thrilled and happy to find so much variety in a fairly short time. And here we've almost killed a whole hour already. So I want to thank you for watching Conant Show. And I'll scroll through a few more pictures here so you can see some real nice images as we go out. And look at that guy. Just got right down there and right under him. Nice orange. Really lovely, lovely composition. You know, you just can't make this stuff up. I'm really glad that I got this one on. Now that's called Indian pipe, and it's a fairly rare species to see, and I'm pretty certain that they're horribly toxic. So you don't want to be, you know, trying to eat any of those. Ah, that's a nice picture of it. That's a real nice focus on that. You know, it is such an ephemeral creature. I mean, those leaf-like appendages are translucent. The whole thing is kind of translucent, and you know, that kind of delicate beauty that always just really charges me up. Nope, that's my house. We'll keep moving. Now, there's some real rich color there. And I sure do hope you can appreciate this orange, red, brown mushroom caps here. They're really gorgeous. Yeah, it looks like a good one to pause on and take it over to me now. There we are. Hello. Okay. So, I hope you enjoyed that, everybody. I think maybe every so often I'm going to do another similar show in different seasons, and I'll get out there with the camera, and we'll see what we can find in our local environment here. I'm trying to figure out a way to photograph the fish in the streams, because that's something that's been real interesting to me, is how the fish populations seemingly are coming back in the small brooks. So there's there's good news out there, and there's bad news. Um, but we're all a part of it. So stay connected, everybody. Thanks for watching Conant Show, and keep tuning in. All right, over and out.